Good morning. This is my final presentation for the Poetic exhibition Brand Identity, and I've titled it Connected to and by Nature. So for my introduction, I've put down the concept statement, which reads, to create a branding identity package for SOST's Poetic Land Art exhibition that uses the featuring artists' insights as well as SOST's theme of nature and poetry to show how we are all inherently interlinked, connected by and to nature. My design solution was inspired by Annie Snyman, Johannesburg-based visual artist who will be one of the artists featured in the Poetic exhibition. Snyman sees the process and relationships built during each one of her projects as an essential part of the artworks produced, laying down the foundations on which the next creative journey will rest. She refers to these creative journeys as creative constellations. Therefore, my interpretation of these creative constellations will make reference to the relationship between creativity, humanity, and nature. I want to bring forth the idea of connection, how everything in our living earth is bound to one core. We are all essentially connected, whether we like it or not, and it is this connection that enables the proper functioning of our environment, societies, and humanity as a whole. Andrew Hofmeyr enforces this idea when he says that we are nature, we are the environment, and in a closed system like this planet, every creature is essential. Gordon Froude's interest in sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden ratio play a huge role in this idea of connectivity, as he believes that geometry is inherent in both our corporal existence and the patterns of the universe, saying that geometry is widely held to be the universal plan by which all material existence is described. Therefore, in order to further visually portray my concept of connection, I will make use of geometry in my design aesthetic and/or elements. My project as a whole will consist of 4 elements: a new logo design, a digital map and mobile app, an information plaque, and a social media campaign. The target audience will include all members of the general public, or more specifically, the local residents and visitors of the small student town Stellenbosch, welcoming an audience of all ages, from families to learners, students, and the elderly. Therefore, the branding package needs to be all-inclusive and gender-neutral in order to appeal to and accommodate as many viewers as possible. In order to ensure my branding package is one that is both gender-neutral and all-inclusive, I've chosen to work with 3 colors that not only complement each other, but also aid in reinforcing my concept of connection. Thus, it can be understood that the specific colors themselves hold meaning and contribute to the overall emotional response of the viewer. My color palette gives the brand identity package a more modern, sophisticated look and feel, while simultaneously also strongly referencing the colors of the earth or those found in nature, such as teal symbolizing the ocean, the skies, grasslands and greenery, and brown symbolizing the soil, land and foundations of the earth. Each of the 3 colors chosen that make up my color palette all hold their own deeper and symbolic meaning. Teal combines the calming properties of blue with the renewal qualities of green. It is a revitalizing and rejuvenating color that also represents open communication and clarity of thought. Teal is symbolic of the infinity of the sea and sky. It is the color of truth and faith. It encourages objective, analytical, and perhaps deep thinking. Pearl is a shade of ivory and is dependable, conservative, and flexible. The color pearl is neutral, calm, and relaxing. It offers some of the warmth of the color brown and some of the deep, crisp, and coolness of the color white, and is associated with the feelings of purity, sincerity, peace, love, kindness, compassion, happiness, comfort, elegance, and playfulness. Brown, the color of the earth, is a natural, neutral color, typically associated with concepts of all natural and organic, and can have comforting and nurturing properties. Brown is believed to help create a wholesomeness feeling, a connection with the earth, and a sense of ordinariness and convention. It is a staple and grounded color. Moving on to typography or my font choices, I've chosen to use a sans serif font Tenor Sans for my primary font face. Sans serif typefaces are often used to signify something clean, minimal, friendly, or modern, therefore complementing my modern, minimalistic design aesthetic, as well as creating a comfortable and inviting look and feel for the respective viewers. Tenor Sans is not your regular sans serif font due to the fact that it makes use of a changing in weight and or thickening of its crisp, clean lines. This not only aids in easy legibility, but also brings a more edgy, fun, and youthful feel to the overall design. For my secondary typeface, I've chosen to use sans serif font Avenir Roman. Avenir Roman is a geometric sans serif typeface, which takes inspiration from the geometric style of sans serif typeface developed in the 1920s that took the circle as a basis, therefore complementing the use of geometry as a main theme in my concept and design elements. However, in conjunction to this, Frutiger, who created the typeface, intended it to be a more organic interpretation of the geometric style. This then creates a link between typography and nature, thus reinforcing my notion behind how everything is bound or connected to and by nature. I then moved on to my logo development and process. Feedback from the client suggested that the element of nature had to be prevalent and or evident in the overall design of the Poetic brand identity. Therefore, I decided to relook my whole process. I realized that my previous design solution was not fitting the brief and did not integrate the elements of nature successfully. So my plan forward was to reevaluate, rethink, and restart my brand identity. However, not abandoning my original concept, but rather reworking it into something better and more concentrated. Initially, I was a bit lost and unsure of the direction I wanted to go in, so I decided to just go outside, be present in nature, and see what might come out of it. I found myself finding things that caught my eye, whether it be the texture of a rock, the feel of a leaf, or the look of a twig. So from then, I began collecting these pieces of nature that intrigued me. I then scanned in all the objects in order to get a digital file, which I could then work with. On this slide, I've just included a few examples of my scanned in pieces of nature. These examples were some of the ones that I ended up using in my final design. With my natural elements scanned in, I began exploring how I could interpret and or display them in my own unique way. I brought them into Procreate on my iPad and decided to remove certain elements of each object so that just the detail of it was showcased, which I thought worked well with my concept of connectivity, as the veins and structure of the leaves were now on display, showing their networking and how everything within them needed to be connected in order for photosynthesis to take place. I also brought in my original color palette and started exploring different compositions, angles, placement of each object. In the end, I was really happy with how this whole process turned out and loved the end result it gave me. I think by turning to nature and letting it guide me to find my design direction really paid off and just exemplified the power of nature itself and the beauty we can find within it when we actually take the time to look, admire, and appreciate all it has to offer. So this slide just shows my favorite 6 examples of the prints that I made after going through this whole process using Procreate, Illustrator, and Photoshop. And then I also went in to find some insights to just link these prints to my concept as a whole. So making reference to Hannah could see these images show the relationship or connection between nature, creativity, and technology by using natural found objects and digitalizing them and then creating art. The look and feel of the plants themselves aid in showing the pattern, rhythm, and geometry found within nature. And then lastly, the veins or structure of the plants touch on the concept of connectivity, how everything is made to work together in perfect unison, and how everything needs that connection in order to maintain life and function. And this whole process led me to create my primary or main logo. So making use of geometry, I started by creating a full circle which represents unity, wholeness, and infinity, thus linking to my concept of connection and being one with nature and the universe. However, by deconstructing the circle and creating 2 semicircles, the idea of connection is lost, and the semicircles stand alone, now being sensitive, vulnerable, and easy influenced. This breakaway is symbolic to that of human nature, visually showing how we continue to shy away from and or learn from what nature has to offer us. Instead, we indulge, dismantle, and destroy its very being for our own personal benefit. However, in doing so, we lose a big part of what makes us human, our forever binding connection to the earth on which we live. We as humanity cannot be without nature, so realizing the significance of this relationship is crucial to the existence of mankind. Therefore, the print of the plant placed in the center and running through both semicircles connects the two, communicating the fact that nature binds us even if we don't want it to. It does not create a perfect circle, but rather shows 2 halves growing beside each other, touching ever so slightly, symbolic to how we are slowly beginning to see our effects on the earth and are realizing that it's time to make a change. The plant represents growth, nurture, life, and connection, and also has connotations to that of the African tribal prince, which aids in stating that the exhibition is proudly South African. Furthermore, the top blue semicircle, being dark teal, represents the oceans and skies, whereas the bottom semicircle, being brown, represents the earth and land. The composition of these two semicircles, their colors, and the plant print also brings forth a visual of a sunset or sunrise, shown by the strong diagonals that can be interpreted as rays, thus symbolizing a new start or new beginning. And then I've also just decided to include a slide to show the logo variations, and then also how the logo could be interpreted or displayed in a black and white color palette. I decided to take the logo design a bit further and extend it into a set of 8 icon symbols, one that will represent each of the 8 artists featured in the Poetic exhibition. The symbols make use of both the geometry aspect of design as well as the natural texture and digital elements I've scanned in. They help bring the whole design solution together as a whole, referencing back to the logo and creating familiarity throughout. So now I will just go into explain how I've linked each symbol to the respective artist, and I just want to apologize in advance if I pronounce any of their names wrong. So the first one is Sandile Radebe. Using the square, I want to show Radebe's urge to be different and think outside the box. Therefore, the box symbolizes his need to reinterpret, rethink, and transform our perspectives. For Hanali Kutsi, this symbol represents Hanali's focus on connecting disciplines which have been working independently. Therefore, by using 2 different shapes to represent the different disciplines, we can see how they in fact fit together perfectly to create something beautiful. For Bapelo Magela, this symbol represents a sculptural piece, which is the creative field that Magela normally works in. There is also pattern present in the symbol, hinting at the patterns found in African culture, thus linking back to Magela's interest in reinterpreting African history. For Andrew Hofmeyr, this geometric shape can resemble that of the figure of a fox in the way that the 2 quarter circles look like its pointed ears, and the fox is something that is present in a lot of Hofmeyr's works. The shape is also playful and quirky, therefore showing Andrew's curative and creative style. For Gordon Freud, this shape represents Gordon's interest in sacred geometry, the Fibonacci sequence, and the golden ratio, as it is a perfect circle split into perfect quarters. The 4 quarters also hint at the aspect of patterns, which is another important interest of Gordon's. And then Stratum van der Merwe. This geometric symbol represents the juxtaposition and contrast between artworks and environment, growth and destruction. Cow mash. This geometric shape or symbol can represent both the heaviness and transformation that Cow Mash explores in her works, due to the fact that the bottom half of the shape feel heavy and the top half feel lighter. However, placed together, they are balanced and symbolize how the mix of this weight can lead to transformation. And then lastly, for Annie Sneeman, the 4 pieces that make up the square represent Annie's concept of the creative constellation. The star-like shape created in the middle of the square hints at the notion behind constellations and thus can be interpreted as a star. So now that I had my logo sorted and I created the 8 elements that I wanted to incorporate into my design, I could then move on to creating and designing the information plaque. I created a set of 8 aluminium information plaques, one for each of the artists that will be featured in the SOST Poetic exhibition. The plaques will be placed in and around Stellenbosch at each of the respective sculpture sites. The purpose of the plaque is to provide viewers with information regarding the artist and the work that he or she has created. However, I've also included the poems that inspired the particular artworks, contact details, and a QR code for the viewers to engage with. Each plaque is approximately 80 centimeters wide and 42 centimeters tall, which enables it to stand out and grab the viewer's attention, also allowing for easy legibility of the smaller text. The look and feel of the plaque design coincides with the modernist, simplest aesthetic by making use of strong horizontal lines, a grid-like structure, blocks of color, and thin, crisp, clean line accents. There will be 4 plaques using the dark teal color, whereas the other 4 will use the mid-brown tone color. By doing so, I avoid creating a sense of monotony, keeping the viewers interested and engaged, and familiarizing them with the brand colors. The plaque will be made up of 2 separate sheets of aluminium, each 380mm times 420mm, where the design can either be printed directly onto or a vinyl decal can be printed and thereafter stuck onto the aluminium. Joining the 2 sheets together will be a hollow cylindrical tube. This tube will also be made out of the same aluminium, however its function is crucial to the concept behind this design. The tube will work like a clipping mechanism, allowing it to open and close when it is needed. Therefore, the plaque will be able to effectively and efficiently be clipped onto another standing object, such as a lamp pole, a signage stand, a park bench, or even a tree. By giving the sign this flexibility and or ability to be used in such a versatile manner, the client will have the freedom to play around with the placement of the plaque and will also be able to save money as the base or foundation of the plaque will have already been installed. Furthermore, this concept directly correlates to my concept of connection, joining two forces together to create one, but also shows how the plaque is dependent on the other variable to be there in order to properly function. Example, if there's no lamppost, tree, bench, then there's nothing for the plaque to be clipped onto. The visual appearance of the plaque having two separate pieces joining in the middle represents that of a book, and thus links back to the concept of poetry. I've chosen to use aluminium as my primary material source to create the plaques due to the fact that it is lightweight, corrosion resistant, and recyclable. Therefore, because it is lightweight, it will cut the costs of manufacturing and be easy to transport and install. Aluminium naturally generates a protective thin oxide coating, which keeps the metal from making further contact with the environment. Therefore, it will be able to withstand the Stellenbosch climate and its unpredictable weather conditions. Aluminium is also 100% recyclable, which makes it much more cost-effective. Therefore, SOST will be able to recycle their plaques should they wish to take them down after the exhibition. On this side, you will see an example of a flat downline of the front and back of the plaque. So the first two images are the front two parts, and they include the artist, about a little brief explanation of the artwork, as well as the poem which inspired the artwork and the QR code. The back of the plaque will contain the map and show the viewer exactly where they are and where to find the other artworks. Here you'll be able to see a blown up or bigger version of my map, just so you can see how I've structured it, how I've laid it out, and really kept to the more simplest modernist design aesthetic that I'm going for. And then these are just a few of my 3D renders that I created in Dimension, just to show you how the plaque would actually fit onto different objects and how big it would be, and basically how it would just be displayed. So the first one is just an example of the back and the front of the plaque clipped onto a lamp post. The second one just shows you the sizing, where it would be placed, and how one would be able to perceive it at eye level. And then the third example just shows you the different objects that it can be placed on. And then the last image or example is just showing how the plaque would sit alongside or next to an actual sculpture featured in the exhibition. And then moving on to my mobile app and digital map element of the identity system. With the new and forever evolving digital age that we are currently experiencing in our 21st century, it is important to consider the different channels of communication this brings us. Almost, if not everyone, would normally have their cell phone on them at times, so it not only makes sense that they would bring it to the art exhibition and perhaps use it to take photos of the sculptures. Therefore, in order to take advantage of this opportunity, I've decided to create a small mobile app specifically for the Poetic exhibition. To access the app, viewers will have to scan the QR code, which is attached to the information plaques found at each sculpture site. Once the QR code has been scanned, a notification will appear on the viewer's mobile device, prompting them to click on it in order to be redirected to the home screen of the app. By creating a personalized app, SOST is able to further enhance their viewer experience, focusing on interaction and engagement, due to the fact that these two elements will aid in the viewer having a positive and memorable experience. The app brings convenience, allowing the viewers to browse through information at ease and in their own time, wherever and whenever they please. When the app is open and in use, viewers will be able to browse through the four main categories, being About, Artists, Map, and Contact. It gives them everything they would want to know regarding the exhibition in a small, bite-sized snippet. The information does not go into too much detail, but rather serves as a starter pack. Viewers will be able to learn a bit more about the exhibition itself, about the Stellenbosch Alto Sculpture Trust, and about the featured artists and their artworks. Furthermore, the app's main and or standout feature is its digital version of the map. Here, viewers will be able to move through the map in more detail, and will also be able to click on the individual sculpture sites in order to receive information about it, how to get there, and who the respective artist is. The first visual I've decided to include here is just a user flow chart of the map, showing the different screens and how each screen leads into the next. The second visual I've decided to include is a blown up version of how a user would be able to use the digital map feature featured within the app. And then the last visual regarding the app is just the different ways that the viewer can access or browse through the map. So the first option would be to download a PDF version of the map, which is the same layout as the plaque. And then the second option is to actually browse through the map digitally on the app in itself. This brings us to the last element that makes up the branding identity for the Poetic exhibition, which is the social media campaign. According to Statista, close to 33% of global Instagram audiences are aged between 25 and 34 years old. Therefore, utilizing Instagram as a platform to launch a social media campaign would aid in targeting those viewers who make up part of that specific age demographic. This way, SOST will be able to successfully capture a portion of the intended target audience who would be at the right age to fully understand, experience, and appreciate the exhibition being held, categorizing them as primary viewers. Furthermore, Statista states that 9.5% of total active Facebook users worldwide were women between the age of 18 and 24, while men users between the age of 25 and 34 years. Therefore, by simultaneously making use of both Instagram and Facebook as platforms to launch the campaign, SOST will be able to reach a target audience ranging from 18 to 34 years old. Despite these platforms not being the most popular choice for the older or younger generations, the millennials will have influence on those around them and could potentially aid in spreading the message across other platforms such as WhatsApp, TikTok, Snapchat, and the like. The social media campaign will run for 2 months prior to the official opening date of the exhibition, that being the 1st of October. Therefore, the first post will be uploaded on the 1st of August 2021. By doing so, SOST will be able to start building up and growing their following or audience base, those who are intrigued by what the campaign is offering and are eager to know more or keep up to date with its happenings. Having 2 months to capture as many people as possible gives SOST a lot of freedom to explore other channels of communication within those 2 platforms. They could venture out to include posting a few story highlights, video reels, polls, and the like, as a way of mixing things up and offering their audience new ways to engage with them. This also aids in helping SOST avoid overpopulating their feed, which almost always results in followers getting annoyed and removing themselves from their follower base. The content plan for the social media campaign has been specifically planned to keep the audience wanting more, teasing them with snippets of information and details, but not revealing everything until the very end. The focus of the campaign is to grow both SOST following, but focus more on the user engagement. In order to keep the viewers interested until the opening of the exhibition, you need to offer them some incentive, make them excited, tell them why they should be excited, ask them for their input, make them feel valued. This has been done through various of the posts in the content calendar. For example, Post 1 asks viewers to comment their thoughts in the comment section. Post 5 introduces a competition and shows viewers what they could win or get out of participating in the exhibition. And Post 7 asks the viewers a follow-up question regarding what they're looking forward to most within the exhibition. All these posts tell the viewer that SOST values them and is interested in them, which would most likely lead them to want to attend the exhibition, making them a successful campaign. And the next 2 images are just showing the content plan or content calendar, what date each post will be posted, and the order of the carousel of each post. And then the next few visuals are just some examples of the posts themselves, showing them in a bit more detail so you can really get a visual understanding of the look and feel of each post and how they will relay or communicate the information that is necessary. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I really hope you enjoyed seeing the behind the scenes work and all my process and how that all led me to curate and design my final brand identity for the Poetic exhibition. Thank you.